All right, let's move on to presentations. Receive an annual report from the San Mateo Mosquito and Vector Control District. We're going to be having the presentation from the Assistant Manager, Brian Weber.
Okay, thanks for having me. And like you said, I'm from San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District, assistant manager, but I also run the operations. Let's see, okay, there we go. So who are we? We've existed for over 100 years. We're an independent special district, so your tax dollars pay for our services, but they stay dedicated to protecting public health and controlling vectors, which is anything that can transmit, insect or animal that can transmit a disease to a human. Part of our mission is just to safeguard the health and comfort of the citizens of San Mateo County through a planned program to monitor and reduce mosquitoes and other vectors. So that sums it up. Okay, this gives you kind of an overview of what we're talking about here. So these are the types of calls we get. We have fleas, mosquitoes, raccoons, cockroaches, yellow jackets, rats, bed bugs, and even when people call and say they're getting bites and they don't know why, we respond and we try and figure out why people are receiving bites in their household through various measures. So these are some typical calls we get. We're doing much more work out there in the community in your marshes and different things like that, as I'll get to later. But these are some of the general things we do. We do mosquito control proactively on a regular basis. And a lot of these are calls that we react to from residents. Oftentimes we're providing information, and here is taking an integrated approach. So this shows you some work in the marsh. Integrated pest management is basically what we do. So quite often when people think of mosquito control, they think of a truck driving down the street just putting pesticide out, but that's far from the truth. So the first and foremost, the biggest thing we do is surveillance. What we're looking for is based on historical trends, inspections for our technicians on the ground. We're doing surveillance, so we're actually looking for mosquito larvae through like a trap. I don't know if this has a light on here, but a trap you see in the upper right there, that would be looking for adult mosquitoes, or in the marshes or backyard fish ponds, we'd be looking for the larvae. Based on that surveillance, we're going to look for methods first. If we can populate that area with mosquito fish, which we breed and distribute to the community, and then we look to do physical control. So that picture on the right where you see a huge crane removing dirt, that's a large project in Redwood Shores where they flooded some salt marsh, some old salt evaporator areas that used to breed large amounts of mosquitoes. That's a form of physical control, allowing the tide to get in there. But physical control is also us coming in your backyard and dumping out all your containers. So, so that's the majority, 99.9% of what we're doing, in addition to some larval mosquito control. So, no large-scale adult applications have happened in San Bruno. So specific to your city, the next few slides will be related specifically to your city. So we have 174 active inspection sites, meaning that they have a water source that is actively breeding mosquitoes. Of course, we're there to eliminate that, but that means that the homeowner either hasn't removed their pond, got it flowing, or there's an open space area that has some water, which I'll get to in a minute. We in 2017, we had 94 service calls, all related to those images that I showed you earlier, and 52 traps to monitor your mosquito population in 2017. So these are our service calls on a map, and I hope everyone can kind of understand where we are. But this is what I like to see is somewhat even distribution. I know up towards, I think that's 280, maybe not as many. In situations like that where we see a community that's not being reached as often, what we'll quite often do is do more surveillance up there, maybe try and do some outreach, reach as many people as we can, but try and figure out why we're not getting calls from that community. So we have an individual who reaches out and does that in our public relations. But these are all service calls related to your city. Okay, so these are the kind of things that we see. We had a handful of these in your in your city this year. These are broken pipes under homes. These happen in every community, but these are often the types of problems along with your city storm drain system that create the type of mosquitoes that can carry West Nile virus. So if you're getting mosquito bites, we always encourage everybody to call, because if we don't know about the problem, we can't work with the resident and some of your city staff to try and get the individual to fix the problem. So after that picture, I figure I'd put in a little bit nicer one. You can see there's some possums here. This is a possum family that was under our house in San Bruno. So just to clarify, we don't do the actual removal. Is what we do is come out. We do a consultation with the residents. We want to permanently eliminate the problem. So just like rats or possums or raccoons, they can get into your home and you can pay a pest control company to eliminate the rats. But if you don't block up the areas like these screens you see in the upper left or over in the upper right, if you don't eliminate those sources of them getting inside the property, it's never going to permanently resolve the issue, because they just keep coming back in. These animals, as you know, if you walk around at night, they're all over the place, and they're not going to stop coming into your home because it's a nice warm place at night. So let's see. This was just something I mentioned last year. We got a lot of calls about this theater site. It is now gone, so this will not be in my slide next year, but I just wanted to bring that up. Something that we do related to your community is do applications in Mills Field, which of course is the airport property. Sometimes you guys will see a helicopter flying over, and this is because our staff cannot penetrate the vegetation and cover the area that needs to be applied. I like this image because it really gives an idea of how vast it is, in comparison to the airport. And here's another really neat picture we have. So, we help load what we do is we apply a larvicide granule. So that is a bacteria that targets mosquitoes, and it's specific to mosquito larvae in the water. So it doesn't create havoc amongst other organisms or fish if they exist. Probably they don't exist out there based on the fact we're treating for mosquitoes, but if that is a concern. Any other organisms in the water are not affected by this application. So it's a granular material, quite often put on corn cob. It drops directly below the helicopter. And what they do is just a nice, even using a GPS application of a granular material to that water. So these typically begin in July and they run through September, October. And of course, because we're dealing with biology, I can't always figure out exactly when the applications have to occur. So again, going back to surveillance, we put traps out. We monitor those populations of mosquitoes. These are some of the locations out there. And based on the data we receive back, that's when we decide to start doing these applications. So we have an individual on the ground who goes through Mills Field, and then we also put some traps out there for adults and looking for mosquito larvae. Okay, so based on, this is another area in Mills Field. This is some work we did with the city. And again, we want to thank the city. This was an abandoned either storm sewer or sewer line. I'm not quite sure, but what they did was, it's not the prettiest picture, but this is effective mosquito control. No use to pesticide. They blocked up the old sewer main. And ever since this call, we haven't received any complaints. But a year or 2 years ago, this was creating a lot of mosquito problems, either with some sort of standing water down below, whether it was rainwater or groundwater, we're unsure. But by blocking this up, it permanently alleviated the situation. So just a little bit of update on West Nile virus. This was one of the slowest years that we've had, I think the quietest year since 2013. And years before that. But that doesn't mean the district isn't doing work related to West Nile virus. We still collected 99 birds and tested them in-house. We have DNA equipment in-house and the specialty to do the DNA reading, looking for pathogens such as Lyme disease, West Nile virus, and others. I won't go down the list. But we tested 99 birds. One was positive. In other typical years when we had a lot of West Nile virus, we put the 20 traps around a positive bird looking for positive mosquitoes to see if we need to take further action. Last year, we had no mosquitoes test positive. So just for some perspective, our worst year was about 15 mosquito traps testing positive. So those always require further action, and none of those have occurred in San Bruno. Okay, Aedes aegypti surveillance. You're probably wondering what that is. Aedes aegypti is the mosquito that can carry Zika virus that was obviously in the news and everybody heard about. We, at present time, have not detected this mosquito. Therefore, technically Zika virus, besides some other ways I won't get into, cannot be transmitted by a mosquito in your city. So not particularly in your community, but there are certain locations that we choose that you know, whether they're close to a cemetery or whatnot, areas conducive to this mosquito being introduced to our community. So we had a special individual this year last year in 2017 do some surveillance looking for that mosquito, and it's very important because we had an introduction in Menlo Park back in 2013. We were actually able to eradicate that mosquito. Without that eradication, then we run the risk of contracting. I'll just move past this one. Contracting dengue fever, chikungunya, yellow fever, Zika. So all of those right now are extremely low. The real risk still continues to be West Nile virus, although it doesn't get the media attention because we don't have those mosquitoes currently. And one of the bigger things is we're having an open house, April 26th. I'm sure your trustee Robert will bring that up again. However, I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. Everyone from the public is welcome. We love city managers, council members, anyone who is interested in hearing more about the district. Honestly, you know, kids are welcome. We take Boy Scout troops. But honestly, I've never heard a council member or a city official come and be disappointed. It's quite unique. It's a 2-story building. It's about 15 years old. We have cool equipment like an airboat and this ATV. And you might run into my kids there on the left at the at the open house. But we do get a lot of kids who come through, and there's actually stuff for the kids to do. We keep that in mind, so please keep that in mind. We're at 1351 Rollins Road, and it's on April 26th. So everyone is welcome. And I left some brochures back here. Remember, related to dead birds when it's West Nile virus season, which is technically almost anytime it's warm here on the peninsula. So if you see dead birds, you can go to westnile.ca.gov, or you can call the district, and we'll come and pick up the bird, and we'll test it the same day. So if we don't know about the bird, we only have so many people on the ground. We have 9 technicians countywide. So if you don't call, we don't know. And any other issues, like I said, mosquitoes, you're getting bites, or just have any questions about anything related to what I talked about, please call the district, and there's plenty of people there to help you out or respond when necessary. So I put some brochures at the back if anyone would like.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions from council? No, Brian, thank you very much. And also, as you mentioned, Robert, who is our trustee, who does a great job, and we appreciate you being down here this evening. And Robert, we appreciate once again you continuing to do the job that you do to represent us.
Thank you.